Welcome to the Shakaama Live Show with your host, Shakaama. Will there be a second stimulus? The short answer, Democrats are at it again. More on that later on in the video. For the people who think that we don't need all of this stimulus, this is different from the stimulus under the Obama administration. So right off the top, a lot of the people who are complaining about the actual stimulus checks being sent out to common everyday Americans, you are thinking the exact opposite of what it is. Money sent to common everyday Americans actually reduces the government. It doesn't increase the government, it reduces the government. The stimulus before under Obama was increasing the government and increasing the control of the Federal Reserve into banks. Because what they would do is they would force banks to take the stimulus and thereby get their paws and fingers into banks who were not under control of the Federal Reserve. I don't know if you know this, but the Federal Reserve is not 100% in control of all banks in the United States. The FDIC is not in control of all banks in the United States. Banks are privately owned businesses, and some of those businesses have their own association, have their own whatever, right? And they don't come under the auspices of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve tries its own thing to gain control and power over everybody in the United States. But they don't have it just yet. And the U.S. government, the federal government, doesn't have absolute control and authority over everybody in the United States. So when you hear about the stimulus packages now, I know, although it's the same exact word, it is completely and utterly different. Also, you are the ones who pay taxes. You have been paying taxes. If the government then turns around to keep the economy going, which is what they're actually trying to do, so they're assuming that they're going to give you money, and you're going to take that money and you're going to buy stuff, because that's what this economy is. It's about buying. This is what George Bush said, don't let them scare you and make you stay at home. You have to go out and buy. Remember he said that and everybody thought he was foolish? Well, he's giving you a little bit of insight as to what the economy is all about. Buying, borrowing, and interest rates, right? If everybody paid off their loans today, the economy would collapse tomorrow. Just understand that. So let's get to this. The first batch of stimulus checks have been sent out to millions of Americans. Have you received your stimulus check? I have not. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin estimates approximately 80 million Americans have received stimulus checks this week through direct deposit. The stimulus check, or economic impact payment, is part of the $2.2 trillion stimulus package intended to help Americans in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Why haven't you received a first stimulus check? If you haven't received a first stimulus check, here are the reasons. You may not qualify for a stimulus check. Mainly the people who do not qualify are, they make way too much money, or, and I want everybody to listen to me, the Democrats imposed a provision that if you owe child support or you pay child support, they will seize the stimulus check and hand the stimulus check over to the payee of the child support. Here's a problem. Here's something that they didn't see. As it stands now, 2020, 40% of all payees of payors of child support are women. And at a 99% rate of non-payment, a bunch of women are going to have their stimulus checks seized and sent to men. So the Democrats, thinking that they're going to be helping women, are in fact shooting themselves in the foot. And that's going to have such an impact, but we don't hear about that anymore, because that sort of news and that sort of, social justice warriors and women's groups and all that sort of stuff aren't in the news anymore because it's just not important. So let's go over the list. You haven't filed a federal tax of 2018 or 2019. More on that in a bit. You filed a federal tax return, but your return has not been processed. You didn't provide direct deposit info to the IRS. You recently shared direct deposit info through the non-filer online portal, but it hasn't been processed. You shared your direct deposit information through the Get My Payment Online portal, but it hasn't been processed. You receive Social Security or other benefits, although you'll receive a stimulus check automatically. Your information has not been added to the Get My Payment tool. Your identity could not be verified, or finally, you tried to enter your direct deposit information but could not due to a technical glitch or one of the other reasons. Did you get an IRS website and get error payment status not available? The reason why you might be getting this is due to either the reasons above, or the IRS says it plans to update the tool each day as more information about the tax returns are processed. If you haven't provided your direct deposit banking information to the IRS, you will receive a paper check. The IRS will start mailing paper stimulus checks starting April 24th and plans to send approximately 5 million checks per week. If that pace is correct, it may take several months for some Americans to receive their stimulus check. The IRS will first send out paper stimulus checks to the poorest people first. I'm truncating the actual information. Now, as to a second stimulus check, some members of Congress and the President Donald Trump have commented that one-time payment of $1,200 is not enough money for many Americans who have lost their jobs or face financial hardship. Let me tell you something. For the people living paycheck to paycheck, for the most part, the reason that they live paycheck to paycheck is that they keep the economy floating along. They live paycheck to paycheck because they don't save money. And don't tell me, oh, I don't make enough to save money. I could send an efficiency expert to your house, and I guarantee you when they would be done with you, you would probably save $100 to $200 each week if you follow their instructions of what not to buy or where to live. Or maybe you need to move out of that house and move back in with your family, and they would have a talk with your family and say, it doesn't make sense for all of you all to be paying rent and none of you have money. Do you understand me? Do you understand that foreigners come in there, bring their whole family, and the mom and dad and the grandma and the granddad and the nieces and nephews and the aunts and uncles all live in one house? The grandkids, the great grandkids all live in one house? And then we get statistics saying that, Russians immigrate to the United States and a good 30% of them become wealthy within 10 years. But we got black people here for generations living paycheck to paycheck. Or some other group. I just say black because I'm black. That's the first people I think of. Okay, now the CARES Act is the third stimulus bill related to the 2008 financial crisis. For example, the IRS sent 2 rounds of stimulus check. What will a second stimulus check look like? Well, here's one possibility. 2 congressmen want to give monthly cash payments to Americans who have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Representative Tim Ryan, Democrat of Ohio, and Ro Khanna, Democrat of California, introduced new congressional legislation, the Emergency Money for the People Act, to provide monthly cash payments to eligible Americans until employment returns to pre-COVID-19 levels. Now, the Emergency Money for the People Act, if passed by Congress in its current form, eligible Americans will receive $2,000 in cash per month, guaranteed for at least 6 months. These monthly cash payments would continue till the employment to population ratio of the people ages 16 and older is greater than 60%. The monthly cash payment would not count as income, so you would not have to file that on your taxes for the next year. And I'm going to speak on that in a second. The monthly cash payment would not adversely impact anyone's ability to qualify for an income-based federal or state assistance program. Now that I mentioned state, let me warn you all. Most of this money is coming from your state. I know it says federal government. I know I'm talking about Congress. I know I'm talking about the President of the United States. Most of this money is coming from your own state. The states are funding this. The states are doing so. Everybody talking about President Trump and Congress and blah 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 blah. That's smoke and mirrors. Most of this is being funded by your local government, your state government, right? So if something goes wrong or if something is not happening, a lot of it is to be blamed on your own state and local government, your own city government. Now, for all of you all who probably lived in super duper fantastic, and I don't mean that in a good way, Democratic run cities, you might be in a heap of trouble because a lot of those places are actually bankrupt, but they don't come out and say that because they want to keep running for mayor or city council or governor or whatever. What was I going to say? There is another proposal that this is not talking about, and that would be that you would receive something like $2,000 a week. At $2,000 a week, we're talking about upwards of $60,000 a year, $50,000, $60,000 a year. That means that the people receiving unemployment would be making more money than the essential workers who still are working, whose income has not been affected at all, right? So they're saying that's unfair to give. But let me say this. I've been unemployed before. I've been on unemployment before, and I made more money than the people who I left the job for. Now, why is that? I made more money. I made more money than them anyway. So on unemployment, it's a percentage of what you actually used to make. And do you know that you actually pay that? Your job isn't paying unemployment. Every paycheck, you pay unemployment. And people say your employer pays unemployment, but what it is it's coming out of all of that comes out of you. Half of it you don't even see. And I've said this and time again, the people who are working for $7 an hour or $7.50 an hour, you're actually making $15 an hour because the employer has to pay a whole bunch of taxes and stuff on the back end that you never get to see. So at the end of the day, it says on your paycheck that you make $7.50 an hour. No, you make $15 an hour already. You just don't get to see the other $7. That's your federal government. That's the Democrats. That's what's going on. So now, if a person is on unemployment and making $2,000 a week, that's because they probably were making $4,000 a week to begin with. Don't look at somebody else's situation and try and judge it based on your situation. This is how they keep us separated. Now, who would be eligible for the second stimulus? As with the $1,200 stimulus check, economic impact payment, not every American would be eligible for stimulus check under the Emergency Money for the People Act. Here's who would be get a monthly check. Every American adult age 16 and older making less than $130,000 annually would receive $2,000 a month. Married couples earning less than $260,000 would receive at least $4,000 per month. Qualifying families with children will receive an additional $500 per child, with funds capped at a maximum of 3 children. So no, Shaniqua is not going to be making bank, or Becky. College students and adults with disabilities who are still claimed as a dependent would be eligible. The individual would receive the monthly payment, and their parent or guardian would receive the dependent credit. Individuals who are unemployed or who have no earnings would be eligible. So that means the homeless people will get a paycheck. Individuals who are not eligible based on 2018 or 2019 tax returns could be eligible based on 2020 adjusted gross income by submitting 2 months of consecutive paycheck under the Democratic proposal. Now, the Republican proposal is just to keep doing what they're already doing. No $2,000 a month, no whatever. It would be a second stimulus check of $1,200 and a second round of small business loans. And that's the more important thing. The small business loans means that a big part of that, a proportion of that, means that the people that are hired by that business continue to get paid their salaries under that business. Now, why would they do that? Because under the provision of that stimulus loan, if they keep people employed and pay their salaries, although they're home, although they're not working, that entire loan would be forgiven by the federal government. So that is a very big incentive to keep paying people. This means that the economy would still be going. The whole idea is to get money into your hands, especially poor people's hands, so that they could keep buying stuff. Now, I'm all for you getting a paycheck. That's all my raison d'etre, right? If you understand or if you follow me here. So the Democrats are actually blocking this. Now they're saying that they're blocking this because they want to add hospitals and they want to add banks and they want to add fundamental stuff. Here's the deal. The Republicans saying, why are you blocking this? You can make your own proposals. Don't block this. We know this actually works. And it's fun. It's cut and dry and it works. But in reality, what the Democrats are trying to do are actually impose leftist policies into their stuff. Like climate change, global warming, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. Into these payments and the bills, in the loans. This is what they want. So they're blocking it to try and force the Republicans to do this. And the Republicans are actually being the more, what's the word, progressive here, that they're handing out money, that they're handing out a universal basic income, but the Democrats are blocking it. You have the Yang gang looking at the Democrats like, what are you doing? How is this possible? How do we get here that the Democrats are blocking the Republicans proposing a universal basic income? This doesn't make sense. We're taking crazy pills. Thank you all for watching and listening to the video. If you made it this far, I want you to type into the comment section, the rent is too damn high. So write in the comment section, the rent is too damn high. Make everybody wonder, why is everybody saying the rent is too damn high? Thank you all for participating in everything. Please give it a thumbs up, and thank you for watching my channel.